when you ask them about the economy, are there particular aspects of it that they bring up?
Yeah, I mean, they're most concerned about inflation. Inflation has been devastating. They complain about it endlessly. I hear about it nearly every single month. It's top of mind for them. They're highly, highly attuned to the price of specific products. I can't tell you how many times, for example, I've heard about the price of eggs.
Hmm.
So I just be aware. So it's certainly about fuel, gasoline in particular. So there's also concern about interest rates, mortgage rates, how much people have to pay for a home, how hard it is to buy a home. So there are certain things that are topics that repeat, and this certainly is one that repeats. And I think the interesting thing, though, is that they bring a pretty nuanced understanding to it. In other words, they're not blaming President Biden for inflation. They generally see it as a function of the results of the pandemic and supply chain problems that caused issues, worker shortages that created issues. So those kinds of disruptions they see as driving it, and also government spending, which is a big concern. Obviously, and that gets right to Concord's concerns as well. They're attuned to how much debt the country is incurring, the interest that has to be paid on that debt, and the impact that has on interest rates. So they're very, that whole sort of mindset works through their heads. Now, I'm not talking about everyone, but it's a theme that recurs in the focus groups.
In terms of concerns about interest rates, what do you get a sense of their view on the Federal Reserve as to whether the Federal Reserve is part of the problem or whether they're the solution, or maybe a little of both?
I think at that point, I'm a little bit beyond where their analysis goes.
Okay.
So keep in mind these folks, unlike you, Steve, are not economists and don't think in the more academic context the way you might look at all of this. This is sort of like a day-to-day thing. They see stuff as expensive. They ask themselves why. They come up with a reason for why it might be, and that narrative sort of drives in a lot of their thinking. But it's not as nuanced as the role of the Federal Reserve. I mean, every once in a while I might get somebody who understands a little bit about the Fed, but it's that honestly I haven't heard much about them.
Is that train of thought generally consistent with how they feel about the debt as well? In other words, they know it's there, they know it's big, but they're kind of not into analyzing exactly how it got there or what you do about it?
Well, how it got there, they're pretty clear. They know that there was a massive amount of overspending in Congress. So that to them is one reason why they are so mistrustful of what's going on in DC, is that they think that that the government, both Republicans and Democrats, have a giant money printing machine, and they're just printing more and more money and spending that money without any regard for the future. So their concern is both about future generations, but it's also about what it's doing to them today. And again, it's not like they've sat down with a pie chart of where the spending is taking place. It's just they know the government has spent massive amounts of money. They know that the government has borrowed massive amounts to spend that money, and they're concerned about the long-term ramifications of that.